Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And I've started talking databases. We've had two lectures or videos before this. The first was on basic database terminology, and the second one was on how to install the XAMPP or XAMPP product. Now what I'm doing is I've literally created a couple spreadsheets here. You only see one on your screen at the time, but I've created a couple of these. And I want to go over them. Why? Because this can be the foundation for us creating a database. What we have in the spreadsheet are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. A field called first name, a field called middle initial, a field called last name, a field called address, a field called city, a field called state, and a field called zip. Now there's a lot of other stuff I can add to this, but this will be fine for right now. I'm assuming that these are 10 people who work at a mythical company. That mythical company has offices in 3 cities: St. Louis, Chicago, and Milwaukee. In addition, in this company, there are 4 departments. There is an accounting department, which is department number 1, a shipping department, which is number 2, a payroll, which is number 3, and a receiving, which is number 4. Now, this is a very important concept. All right, and again, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so we're going to put here, these are going to be the departments that these people work for. So, okay. That'll be in accounting. And what else did we have? We had shipping, payroll, and receiving. Now, you may or may not be able to tell, but taking a look at this, we're already violating, for lack of better words, one of the what's typically called tenets of good database design. And what I mean by that is we've got a lot of duplication of information, and there really is no reason to do this. All right, what do I mean? Well, yeah, we've got the department name over here, which is just fine and dandy. And we can now tell what each one of these people work at. Not only that, we now have a field that is in this table and is in this table. All right, but let's go back, and instead of putting these in, everywhere we've got accounting, let's change this to department number. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find what? Accounting. And I'm going to replace that with a number 1. All right. Then we're going to come in and we're going to replace shipping with number 2. We're going to replace payroll with number 3 and receiving with number 4. Now, hopefully, when you take a look at these, you can see we've done a lot of good things. This is taking up a lot of room. I'm just going to change this from middle initial to middle. How about just to initial? Looks a little better. Now I can move this over. All right. And this we'll call dept num. All right. It looks a little bit better. Now, I do have a field, department number. That field is in common with this field right here. So what I have here are two different tables that I'm going to create. Now, if you remember earlier, when we talked about our definitions, we had fields, which could be as small as one letter. We put different fields together and we get a record. We put different records together and we get a table. We put different tables together and we get a database. So I'm going to build this database for you right now. All right, so I'm going to build this database with these two tables in it. All right, and we're going to actually build it twice. The first time we build it, it's going to be a little crude. It's going to come right from the command line. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I've got XAMPP started, which I do. I'm going to click the shell, and then I have to log in. And it's MySQL space -u for the user. I'm just going to go in as the root user, which is the main user of all. And root does not have a password. If it did, I'd say -p followed by the password. And, you know, I could put that in, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just leave it in as this. All right. So I am now in to MySQL or MariaDB. I am now in here. And what I'd like to do is to come in and create a database. All right, this is going to be the Acme Storage Company. I just made that up. So I'm going to come in here right now. Let's see if we have any databases. So I'll type in here show databases, and I'll hit enter. And you notice I didn't get anything. In fact, it changed my prompt. Virtually every command that you enter into MySQL here in command mode needs a semicolon on the end. So you can see I already have 4 databases: an information schema and a performance schema, which work with the internals of the database, MySQL, which has got some other stuff in it, PHP-MyAdmin, I'm not sure what's in there, and tests that you can kind of use as a scratch pad. Well, I want to create a new database that's named Acme. So I'm going to start to come in here and I'm going to start typing in SQL, Structured Query Language. In particular, you may or may not remember from what we talked about before, all right, but we want to type in a DDL statement, a data definition language statement, that being create database. Now, SQL, just so you know, SQL is case insensitive. The reason that I bring that up is, at least on occasion, you'll see people use all upper or all lowercase. It doesn't matter. I say, especially while you're learning, I'm going to put keywords in uppercase and words that I define in lowercase. So I'm going to create a database, and that database is going to be called Acme, and a semicolon on the end. If it says query OK, 1 row affected, it should have worked. Now I can use DOS key here, so I can use my up arrow, and now I can click show databases, and you notice I've got Acme here where I didn't have it there. So I have now come in and created a database named Acme. If I want to make that database active, which is what I want to do right now, I have to say use Acme. All right. So now notice it's telling me that the Acme database is the one that I'm using in here. All right. So if we come into here, let's check our time. We're at 9 minutes, so this is good. If we come in here and we'll do this table first. We're going to have 2 field names in here, dep num and dep name. The department number, although it is numeric, we'd have our choice whether or not we want that to be number or whether or not we want that to be a string. All right, these will definitely be strings. So let's come in there and we're going to create a new table. The way we do that is we let the system know we want to create a new table. So create table, we'll call it departments. All right. Then we have to let the system know what's in that table. So a parenthesis, okay, and we'll have a department number, and that will be of type integer. Oops. And it will also be our primary key. And if I want to, I can, because these are keywords. All right. And I'm also going to put something else in here that's going to say auto increment. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Primary key. Then we'll have a department name, and that'll be a string. So it'll be a collection of characters. So we'll put in here varchar, which means a variable length string, and we'll make that 25. All right. Then we'll close off the parenthesis from the one up here and hit semicolon. So what we're doing here is we're creating, if this worked, we're creating a new table called departments. This new table will have two fields in it. One called dep number, which will be an integer field, which we won't even have to put in. It'll automatically create it for us. And it's also a primary key. And we'll have another field called department name. Well, that worked. How do I know that worked? Now I can come in. I did a show databases before. I can do a show tables. And it'll show me all the tables in Acme, which are department. If I want to get a description of the schema, so what the table looks like, I can type in describe departments, and there it is. When you've got long commands like describe, typically it'll also work if you just put in the first 4 letters. All right, so I get the same results in both cases. All right. So I want to now put some data in here. In particular, I want to put in this data. All right, it's been a while since I've done this, so I'm hoping what I'm about to do works. I'm going to say insert into departments, and I want my 2 field names, which are department number and department name, and I want to put in values. Again, I might end up, if I did anything in here incorrectly as far as syntax, I'll get an error. Null, because that'll be handled by that auto increment here. Accounting, shipping, payroll, receiving. Let's just put in that and see if it works. It says we have an error in our syntax. Okay, and I think I know what it is. So let's go back to the beginning. Insert into departments. Let's put a paren here. Now we want the values. Still says we have an error. I think we can just come in here and do this. Insert into departments, values, null, accounting. Unknown column, accounting and field list. I'm not being very impressive here, am I? Let's Google it. How to insert records into MySQL. Well, this isn't working very well. And it's showing us here, this is the syntax. Insert into table name, the fields, and the values. All right, so we're going to use that as our basis, and we're going to insert into departments. All right, that's a good start. And what we want here are our field names inside of parentheses. So that's department name, department number, dep number, and dep name. Now I need the word values, and I think I need to put each one of these into their own set of parentheses. So we have accounting, shipping, payroll, and receiving. All right, and it tells us 4 rows were put in there. How do we know if they were in there or not? Well, this is something we're going to hit on later, but I'm going to say select star from departments. And there's our data. So I'll come back to talk about this in much more depth and breadth of coverage, and we'll add our next table in just a couple minutes.